Okay, cool. Well, can you just kind of introduce yourself and tell a little bit about what your hips were like a little while ago and how you found out that you had FAI and things like that?
Yeah, so my name is Richard Lagara. I'm 35 years old. Um, I was a collegiate shot putter, and pretty much since from the time I was 21 or 22, I've had issues with my growing, primarily my growing and like lower abdominal muscles. So I was done competing, at the college level and all that stuff, and just kind of going on with the rest of my life. But always been really active, um, running, weightlifting, whatever. And I went several years without having anything really bother me. And I can think of two major flare-ups that I had where I went and saw the doctor um, after the initial, like 2001 or 2 injury.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to the doctor in 2009, he told me that it was osteitis pubis and that I still needed to rest. Um, he offered to do an injection. However, he said, let's give it another month. And then within the month, it kind of cleared itself up.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of kept driving on. April of 2015, I'd been weightlifting pretty seriously for a few months, kind of getting back into what I thought I was still able to do.
Like
And
full Olympic weightlifting, you mean? Like
yes,
snatch, clean and jerk,
snatch, clean, and jerk
squatting, all that.
squat.
Yeah, got it.
Yes. Um, and it's a big part of shot putting, so I miss that stuff. So kind of, you know, built a platform and a bar and some bumpers in my garage and just went to town. And so after a few months of being more serious than I ever had been with that, I started developing some pain that was really identical to the symptoms I had when I was diagnosed with osteitis pubis. Went to the same doctor. Um, he told me that it was not osteitis pubis, that it had been a big misdiagnosis the entire time
Mm.
that I actually had FAI. And mind you, this is minus an MRI. This is just based off of X-rays.
Mm-hmm.
It's based off of his evaluation there in the office.
And what, did the X-rays show? Cam impingement, pincher impingement?
Cam,
Cam, yeah, that's
yeah,
what I have.
and it's funny because I remember back in 2001 seeing the team doctor, and they asked me if I had problems with my hips when I was a little kid, and I said no. And they said, "Boy, that's kind of funny because your hips are messed up." And I was like, "Well, what does that mean?" And they said, "Well, if it's not hurting you now, it's okay." And I go, "But you," and they showed me. You got to remember, man, I was like a 20-year-old kid at the
Right,
time. So he showed me the X-ray, and he's like, "See here and here, they're messed up."
right,
So I said, "Okay." Well, my hips don't really bother me. My growing does. Can you
right.
fix me?
Doesn't hurt now. Just let it go.
Right. So fast forward to a few months ago when I saw the doctor. He says, "No, it's FAI. It's been a big misdiagnosis. This is what A-Rod had. He had the surgery. It's great." And this is an orthopedic surgeon I'm talking to, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I recommend a guy." I'm in Tucson. He said, "I recommend a guy in Phoenix." I was like, "Boy, I'm 35 years old, man. I don't know if I want to get cut so I can slam bars in my garage."
Right.
So he sent me to a physical therapist. I went. They were great, really, really nice people. Went out of their way to help me. But after 2 months of going and being very diligent with the protocol that they were giving me to do when I wasn't there, I saw zero improvement.
What kind of stuff did they have you doing at physical therapy?
It was all strengthening based, band work, some of it just body weight only, type of like clamshell type things.
Trying to strengthen just your glutes or all your muscles of the hips?
Hips and glutes primarily. There was nothing, no adductor strengthening or anything like that, and
No,
it was progressive.
nothing
I
for
mean,
the core?
what's that?
Nothing for the core?
No,
And nothing
and
in terms of tissue work or stretching, rolling on things?
no. The very last session that I went to, because I would ask him about stretching. I said, "Do I need to be doing some type of stretching?" And he would always answer, "Not yet."
Hmm.
So I knew he had a plan. But in the very beginning, he said, "We'll know if this is going to work. 8 weeks. We'll know if it's going to. If you're seeing some improvement, we'll know if this physical therapy is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I gave it the 2 months. It was actually a little more than 2 months. I was very diligent with that, and I was getting really frustrated because I was getting nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking. I had been doing a lot of internet research, anyways, and I came across, I think, one of Matt's videos. I was like, "Well, this is kind of interesting," and then it just snowballed from there. And I think like 2 days later, I got the program.
Mm-hmm.
So I started the program September 1st. Saw the date written down on the packet when I printed it out. And on the 17th, I was squatting in my garage, full range of motion with no pain. Granted, it wasn't the same intensity.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I mean, I couldn't have done that 2 weeks prior.
What could you have done 2 weeks prior?
I could get into a full squat position, but it hurt.
Yeah.
Really high up on the groin in the adductors hurt.
Cool.
After 2 weeks, nothing.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
That's what I did.
That's all right. Dropped call. We're back though. So you were describing what happened at 2 weeks, where you before starting the FAI Fix, you could squat full depth, but it was painful. 2 weeks into the FAI Fix, you could squat full depth, and it was not painful. And
Right.
then what happened after that? How long has it been since then?
So it's been another 4 weeks since I was able to squat without any pain, and it just continued to get better. I continued to do the same exercises and the stretching, and the tissue work is what I found for me. It's just been night and day.
Yeah, me too.
So basically just continuing to slowly add intensity and slowly add volume to my weightlifting sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, every now and then I go a little too far and like, okay, I'm not ready for that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not down for a week or 2 days. I just go back and I do my tissue work, and the next day I'm ready to go again.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of weights are you using these days as you're also healing your hips?
In terms of
like, how much are you squatting? How much are you snatching? Are you way light on those, or is it where is that at?
So I'm about 90% of my snatch was based off of what I had done before. So I snatched 100 kilos in April, which is 220. Sorry.
Yep.
And well, you probably know. But, so I snatched 220 in April, and then right after that is when things started going bad.
Yeah.
And so far since I've been back, I've snatched 210 on several occasions.
Okay.
No pain.
That's
and
great.
I just feel like my legs are just not strong.
Yeah.
I mean, clean and jerk. I clean and jerk 275 prior to the injury, and I clean and jerk 245 since. So not huge numbers.
Yeah. But being that close to your maxes, while fixing a major hip issue, that's excellent in my book.
I feel that way. The squat is lagging behind, obviously, but I mean, that's okay.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're listening to your body, and if things aren't feeling right, you're listening to that and backing off a little bit, which I think is very wise. So has there been anything else that you've noticed? Any other range of motion improvements, or just day-to-day activities, or anything else notable since you've been working on the FAI Fix program for about 6 weeks?
I noticed that somewhere around week 2, I kind of had like some pain in my hips, like on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, most of my discomfort had been like in the groin, on the inside of the legs.
Mm-hmm.
I had some pain on the outside, and I was like, I don't understand why it's hurting there. And the only thing I can kind of attribute it to is that things were just realigning, and things were loosening that had been tight before, and things were just getting put back into the right place. And after about a week, it kind of went away.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't anything debilitating. It was just like a dull pain that was kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
About a week, it went away, and I haven't felt that since.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. It's almost like, if this is your hip joint, and there's all different patches and types of muscles around the hip joint that are dense or too tight, you free up one section of them, like the adductors, for example, and now the hip joint moves differently and it's positioned differently, and you start feeling things you haven't felt before, like maybe stretches start feeling different, or maybe you get a little bit of pain in an area you've never had, but it's because the joint is moving differently and it's positioned differently. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. So you said that the tissue work you found to be kind of a big missing piece for you that you didn't get in the physical therapy protocols, which just had you doing mostly strengthening exercises. Can you say a little bit more about what specifically from the program you found has benefited you the most? Which exercises, which tools, things like that?
Right. So I had never even foam rolled my quads before. I had foam rolled my back, obviously, but I had never foam rolled my quads or anything like that. And that was an experience. It was rather uncomfortable the first times, probably the first week or two. I felt like that was really key because I didn't realize how tight all that was. And I know that's step one, but other than that, the fire hydrant, am I just on it correctly?
The lacrosse ball on a box in the fire hydrant position?
Yeah. I use a softball.
Yep.
Because that's what I have laying around. And it seems to be the right size. The lacrosse ball I have is a little smaller.
Yep.
And that one has been, those two I think have been the two that I feel I get the most benefit from because the adductors were just unbelievably tight. And they still are very tight, but that mobility work and tissue work is very painful still.
Yep.
But I've already seen the benefit of it, so
yeah,
continue to push through it and kind of. I want to be sure that I'm progressing, so I moved on and I'm using a softball on my quads now, and in other areas where I was just foam rolling, now I'm using a softball. It's a little bit firmer.
Yep.
And so far, so good.
Cool. Yeah, we see that pattern over and over and over again, and it perfectly mimics my. I wasn't so lucky as to have such good results in 6 weeks. It took me months and years to really come out of it to be able to snatch and clean and squat and all that stuff again. But I also didn't have like a specific guide to doing it. But what I noticed and what people are noticing is that typically you start with big blunt objects like a foam roller, and then over time they get smaller like a softball, smaller like a lacrosse ball, smaller like a jackknobber, because you're just you're getting to the subtler and subtler areas of your hip. You're getting deeper into the attachment points and things like that. And I wish that was something that I could convey to everyone who tries like a non-surgical approach, because sometimes what people will do is they'll maybe just foam roll, and it's so blunt that it doesn't really get into the attachment points of muscles that well, and it doesn't do much for them. It's great that it did for you, but for some people it doesn't do too much, and they just conclude, oh, foam rolling doesn't work, or even non-surgical methods don't work, period. Or they just try physical therapy and they conclude, oh, that didn't really work, non-surgical methods don't work. But until you've tried some of the more targeted pinpoint things, you haven't really tried what I think are some of the most effective tissue exercises. They're surgical, not surgical, but they're much more pinpoint. Surgical is probably the wrong word. But I think that's a really important point for people to know, is that until you've really tried all the tools and really gotten in there very pinpoint, there's still things that probably would make a big difference for you. So is there anything else that you wanted to say about things you found worked, or any last kind of words of advice that you might have for people who are dealing with, they might be in the same situation as you were?
It is very time consuming, but when you outweigh the benefits of being able to fix yourself, opposed to having somebody cut you open and operate on you and shave your bones down, and then it may or may not work. I mean, everything I've read is some people have good results and others don't, and I know that you guys deal with people that don't get the desired result from surgery.
Yeah,
it's definitely worth putting up the time in, because it's a process. Every day, I mean, I do it every day, and it takes a long time, but it's worth it. For me, it's worth it.
Yeah, I think that is very important to know, because we live in such a society of quick fixes and a pill for this and a surgery for that, you know, it's easy to kind of fall into the hope that maybe there can be a quick fix for it. But for all things worth having, I've found, usually it requires you putting in some hard work for a period of time.
Absolutely.
And the other advantage of learning how to fix it on your own is you will then have a skill set for the rest of your life that you can apply to other areas. You can say, okay, now my shoulder's starting to hurt. Well, I'm going to try some of the things that I learned on my hip, and I can fix my shoulder. Whereas if you just take a pill or get surgery, you haven't learned any skills that you can use. So that's great. Cool. Well, man, I just so appreciate you reaching out to us and sharing that. Like I said earlier, it makes a big difference to hear those kind of success stories, and I know it makes a big difference for other people who are also dealing with FAI to see videos, not just see my silly face talking all the time or Matt's silly face, but see, real people who are making it happen and having good success. So I appreciate you for that, and please stay in contact and let me know, how it is in another 6 weeks and, in 2 months from now and all that, because I love hearing the discoveries and the breakthroughs that people are having. So stay in touch.
Absolutely, I will do. Like I said, I really felt obligated to just let you guys know that it was like, boy, this thing really works. And obviously you guys knew, but it was more of a thank you too that I wanted to reach out and just say thanks for putting it out there.
Yeah, well, you're welcome, and thank you. Cool. Well, I'll talk to you whenever I talk to you, and let me know how it goes.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
Here.